Come on in. My name is Ben. I'm an Illinois attorney, real estate and estate planning, and I am here to talk to you about jury duty. Here's the thing. I'm an attorney, but I try to do everything I can to avoid court. The other day, I got to go to jury duty, and this is all about my experience. Now, this is all personal experience. I am an attorney, but this isn't legal experience about the jury process. This is just what I experienced. I thought maybe as an attorney I might have a little bit more insight, but I don't think I really do than any regular person. I live in Cook County, Illinois, and about a month ago, I received a notice in the mail that I was selected for standby jury duty. Now, what that means is that I had standby, which means I may have jury duty, versus other folks just get a letter saying, guess what? You got jury duty. And if you just have jury duty, you just have to go. But with standby jury duty, you get that notice in the mail, and they tell you after 4:30 p.m., the day before jury duty, after potential jury duty, you have to call this phone number, and they'll say either you do have to go down or you don't. So you get this notice in the mail. It gives you a date about a month in the future. It probably was a month, and it says call this number one day, 4:30 p.m. the day before you go to jury duty to see if you have to actually go. I call the number, and I have gotten that notice in the past, and you call that number, and they say, hey, if your last name is between B and F, you have to go to jury duty. If you're not in that mixture of last names, you don't. This time, I called that number, and they said, if your last name goes from B through Z, you get to go down to jury duty. Living in Cook County, Illinois, that's the county where Chicago is, I got to go to the big courthouse, downtown Chicago in the Loop, 17th floor of the Daily Center, and they told me to arrive at 9 a.m. the day of jury duty. So, I live in suburban Cook County. It's wintertime. Guess what? We got some snow that day, so it was a little treacherous, but I took the train downtown. It took me about 45 minutes to get from my door to the actual courthouse. When you go to jury duty, they make a big deal that usually you're not allowed to bring any electronics into the courthouse, except there is an exception if you are on jury duty. If you're on jury duty, that they make an exception and you can bring in your phone and a laptop. So, being the good workaholic, I made sure to bring my laptop, and of course I brought my phone. If you have jury duty in Daily Center, Cook County, Illinois, you go to the Daily Center, which is that tall county building, middle of the Loop, downtown Chicago, right next to the Picasso statue. You have to go to the 17th floor. You take that elevator up to the 17th floor, and it's a very county-oriented space. So there's a line, you go to the line, there's a bank of it almost looks like old-style bank tellers. You give your form to that bank teller, and they give you a little piece of paper with a number on it. My little piece of paper said number 6, which meant I was in panel 6. You go into this room. They probably have about, maybe 150 people in this room. And the room is full. I'd say it's 90% full. One thing that I thought was very interesting about jury duty is that I'm in this room, about 150 people, and no one knows each other, right? You don't go to jury duty with your friends. It's not something if you're home break from school, everyone decides to go down to the jury duty, make a little bit of money one day. Everyone is a stranger. So that room is completely quiet. 150 people, no one's talking. No one's making friends with whoever sat next to them. Everyone is just staring at their phone, just scrolling and waiting. So were supposed to be there at 9. I got there probably about 8:50. And it was probably about, maybe about 9:10. They turned on the video. And we all watched this video that they tried to be humorous. They tried to make some jokes. It was a little dated. It was one of those videos where they kept going back to the old-fashioned TV aspect ratio, and then they go back to the regular one. But basically, they summarize what jury duty is. And you can even find this video on YouTube. It's if you want to take a look at it. And they basically go through the process of what's going on with jury duty if you're selected as a juror, that sort of thing. So it's probably about a 15-minute video. Like I said, it's there on YouTube. You can definitely watch it. We watch the video, and then it's over, and then we all just go back to sitting. And bit by bit, over the intercom, they'll call a number. Like I said, I was number 6. And they do it in random order. So the first one, maybe they call number 8 first. And they have everyone in number 8 line up in front, and they take you to the courtroom. And then they go number 2, and then number 15. It basically, eventually, they got to number 6. And when they called up my number 6, there were probably, maybe around 40, not quite 50 of us, who stood up, and we all lined up, and they took us to our specific courtroom for the next step. About 40 of us in this room, and the sheriff deputy said, "I hope you're used to being bored, because you're about to be bored." So it's probably about 9:30. We're in this room, and we sit there. We sit there for probably close to an hour, I'd say, and then the sheriff's deputy said, "Okay, we're about ready to start." And the court clerk came in. She read there are 14 names, read the 14 names, and they whisked those 14 people into another courtroom. And then the rest of us, we all proceeded to follow those 14 into the courtroom. When we got to the courtroom, the judge wasn't quite there yet, but the plaintiff side, the defendant side, they were all there. Both plaintiff and defendant, they both had 2 attorneys, and the actual plaintiff and defendant were there in the room. Now, this was a civil case. In Cook County, criminal cases are at a different courthouse. So this was a lawsuit, a medical malpractice. To be honest with you, they went over some of the details. I don't have a medical bone fiber in my body. I had no idea what they were talking about, but it seemed pretty involved, pretty detailed, and it was something that a patient and a doctor had a disagreement, and they were in court. So you had the patient's family and the doctor there. The 14 that they had initially called were on a panel, and they were in that very stereotypical jury box that you see in TVs and movies. And the rest of us were just in the back, just hanging out. We were on standby still. Eventually, the judge came in. Everyone rose. The judge said, "Be seated." We all were seated, just like they do in the TV and movies. And then the judge had an introduction, basically went over the details of being a juror, why exactly we were there. Basically said, we're not here to embarrass anyone, but we're going to ask these first 14 people some questions. If you're not comfortable answering a question, we're more than happy to answer it in private. But we're going to take you bit by bit. We're going to go through all these questions. And they kind of explained what a medical malpractice lawsuit is all about, kind of explained when the trial would begin. So I thought that was interesting. So the trial itself was about 2 weeks in the future. So if you got selected for the jury on the day we were there, you got to go home, and then you'd have to go back to court in a couple weeks to actually be on the jury. The attorneys, the plaintiff, the defendant, they were all seated in a row, and they were facing the potential jurors in what they call voir dire, which is where the attorneys and the judge just ask the potential jurors a bunch of questions to see if they would be a good fit for jury duty. I was in standby, so I was just in the back, just watching it all. And there was a stenographer taking notes. There was a court clerk who was helping the judge, basically the judge's assistant, and there was the sheriff's deputy, basically, the bailiff, kind of helping out, making sure everyone was orderly in the courtroom, and we all were. Like I said, no one was there to make friends. Everyone was very quiet and just took this very seriously, and just, I think, hoping that this would be done sooner than later. So they started asking the 14 potential jurors questions, name, where exactly in Cook County do you live, your profession, who lives in the house with you, what are their professions, if someone, the big red flag was always, since medical malpractice, if anyone was either involved in the medical field, or if, say, maybe their spouse or someone else in the house was involved. So if someone said, oh yeah, I live with my wife, she's a nurse, and that was a lot of fun, a lot of questions that came up after that. So they questioned those poor 14 people for probably about an hour. First, the judge asked a number of questions, and then the plaintiff's attorney asked a number of questions, and then the defense attorney asked a number of questions. And once it was all said and done, it was probably about noon. And my stomach was rumbling. And I thought, oh boy, hopefully we'll take a lunch break and we can come back. We didn't take a lunch break. The judge gave everyone 10 minutes. She said, all right, 10-minute break, and then we'll come back. And that 10 minutes turned into 15 minutes. It turned to a half hour. Next thing I knew, it was 1 o'clock. And the judge and the attorneys were still in the back talking. So I'm starving. I just want to get to lunch. So I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that we can go to lunch. They'll tell us to go to lunch because I don't want to do this anymore. I need a break. Oh, by the way, so they gave us a 10-minute break, but we were not allowed to leave the floor we were on. So we were the only courtroom in session on that floor, so we had the whole floor to kind of wander around in, to kind of spread out. If you've ever been to the Daily Center, they have these huge windows, and we were up on the 16th floor, so we had this awesome view of downtown, awesome view of the lake. It was really, really scenic, but I was starving, and I wanted to get to lunch. So, about 1 o'clock, the attorneys come back, the judge comes back, and the judge basically says, hey, out of these 14 potential jurors we've already talked to, we have 6 that would make great jurors for this trial. We've already selected them. They called the 6 jurors. They told the other 8 jurors that they were not needed, and all the standby jurors who were in the back, like me, they never questioned us at all. They said, thank you for your duty, thank you for service, we no longer need you. They said, hey, guess what? Because you're here today, you are exempt from having to go to jury duty for a whole year. So if I get a letter saying that I'm in jury duty, say in July, I can turn around and throw that away and say, nope, I'm not going because I am exempt. And they said, all jurors who are here today, when you leave, the sheriff's deputy has a check for you. So I got a $35 check for my service, which, since I was there from basically about 9 to 1, that's a little less than $10 an hour, but it's better than nothing, I guess. Well, that's my story with jury duty. It's just my story. You may have had jury duty and had a totally different experience. Each court is different. In Illinois, the circuit courts are part of the state of Illinois, but the circuit court in Cook County is totally different than the circuit court in Lake County. And I have no idea, you get to Indiana or Wisconsin or Oklahoma or Alaska, what jury duty is like there. So do you have any jury duty stories? I'd love to hear how it varies from state to state and court to court. So any good stories, leave them in the comments below. Like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to 23 Legal for more content on real estate law, estate law, and just general law in Illinois. I'm Ben Weaver. I'll be taking new clients, and I'll see you in the next video.